know that I'm very pro taking rabbits outdoors for supervised play, or even rabbits living outdoors as long as they have suitable accommodations. So it might be surprising to learn that I'm actually not a huge advocate of bringing rabbits outdoors to public places. When I first got my rabbits, I did the majority of my research on YouTube, and when I saw my favorite YouTubers bringing their rabbits outdoors on leashes and harnesses, I thought I would do the same. I actually have tried it a couple of times, but after doing more research, I decided that it's something that I really don't agree with, and I guess there's a video on it. Even though it's something that I'm personally not a huge fan of, I'm a huge proponent of providing you all with the unbiased facts and letting you make your own opinions. So let me know what you guys think at the end of this video and if you would bring your rabbits outside. The most common way I see people wanting to bring their rabbits in public is with a leash, the same way you would a dog. When it comes to rabbits, collars are a huge no-no. Actually, even for dogs, they're not ideal, but especially for rabbits. For one, collars push on their trachea and their airways, so it's dangerous in that sense. But also, rabbits have very, very strong back feet and very sensitive spines. So if they are going to try to run and they push from their back feet and then their neck is pretty much holding them back, it's very likely that they're going to break their back, if not choke to death. So I really wouldn't recommend collars. Harnesses are a lot better alternative. There's two main types of harnesses. You have strip harnesses where there's a strip that goes around the neck and a strip that goes around the body. And then you have a full body harness or vest that pretty much covers the entire body. The strip harnesses tend to be a little bit more secure while the full body harnesses tend to be more comfortable. I think one of the biggest danger with harnesses is the fact that rabbits are prey animals and instinctually when something tugs on them, they're going to want to try to run away. Naturally, this makes walking them on a leash extremely difficult because you aren't really going to get to control where the rabbit goes. In fact, it's very likely that whichever way you pull, they're going to go in the opposite direction. If you do want to walk your rabbits on a leash, it's going to be more they're walking you and you're following them. I think this comes with a lot of danger because if you are in a very stressful situation, like you're walking them on a sidewalk and there's a car coming, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to direct them back to you the way that you would a dog. Also, if you are walking them outside and then there's a human that accidentally steps on them or a dog that tries to grab them or anything like that, it's just going to be hard for you to get them back to you in time because again, any way you pull, they're going to want to run the opposite direction. Another danger with harnesses is the fact that they're really not that secure for rabbits. Rabbits are very small and they're very squirmy and they can kind of get themselves out of everything. Even when I put the harness as tight as I can on Sachin and it looks almost like it's choking him because it's so tight, he still manages to get out just because of how their anatomy is. Another danger is not even just taking your rabbits outside with harnesses, but simply putting it on has a lot of danger. Again, rabbits are prey animals, so the idea of having something on top of them that's squeezing them is extremely terrifying, and some rabbits can never really get over this terror. A lot of people are able to desensitize rabbits to a harness by putting it on loosely and then doing it tighter and tighter. But in my opinion, I think this is very traumatizing when you're trying to go against an animal's natural instincts. And again, considering the output isn't really that great, I honestly wouldn't recommend it. Now, that being said, some rabbits do seem to take really well to the harness, especially rabbits that are really good at following their owners seem to do really well. I think if you do want to walk your rabbit, you should be doing it in a very secured area and not really a public place. Now, I've had Sachin almost 4 years, and in that time, he's never shown any hesitation towards putting on any type of collar or harness, even though collars are completely unsafe for rabbits. As you guys can see, he really doesn't mind having it on him, and it doesn't stress him out. Even strip harnesses, which a lot of rabbits don't take well to, he does fine. I didn't put it on all the way around him because I didn't want to stress him out, but even with it not on completely, you can see that he still moves and walks around like normal. He does okay with the full body harness. He doesn't enjoy it, and he's not a huge fan of being walked on leash, but he tolerates it pretty well. As you can see, he looks comfortable. He's not freaking out or anything like that. Now this is just a cheap elastic leash that came with the harness, and in regards to being pulled, he pretty much does okay. When you pull too hard, as you can see, he freaks out a little bit, but he quickly calms back down. This next footage you're about to see is pretty disturbing. This is what happened when I tried to put the most comfortable full body harness on my second rabbit butt chin. The only reason I even did this was just to show you guys what a more typical reaction of a rabbit could be. Keep in mind that I've had Butchin almost 2 years and he's very trusting of me, which is why he even calmed down. But as you can see, the harness was just really too much for him. Normally, I would have stopped after seeing his initial reaction, but I decided to continue just to show you guys what a more typical rabbit would behave like. As soon as the harness was on, he became extremely skittish and scared, and just by the way he's moving, you can tell that he's very on edge. As you guys can see, the harness was actually very loose and I could pretty much fit my entire hand in there, so it's not like it was so tight. He just literally didn't like the feeling of anything being on his back. As soon as I removed the harness, he immediately calmed down and got a lot more comfortable. As soon as the harness is off, he reverts back to his old self where he's very comfortable with me and loves being pet and cuddled. The only place I would feel comfortable watching my rabbits is either my backyard or maybe some type of field. But even so, I would say that walking is really not that enjoyable for them. Now, if you still do want to bring your rabbit to a public place, obviously a harness isn't going to suffice. So in that case, you would want something a little bit more secure, like a rabbit carrier, a bunny backpack, a bunny stroller, anything along these lines. These are a lot better because they let the rabbit be in a completely safe and secured place. Even though bunny strollers and carriers are a more secure way of taking your rabbits to public places, it doesn't really eliminate the stress. Rabbits are prey animals, and the same thing that a dog would find really exciting, a rabbit can find really overwhelming. Loud noises, a lot of people, a lot of different animals are all huge triggers for rabbits. Another issue with bunny strollers and carriers and all that is rabbits really don't do that well with motion. I think the majority of rabbits are going to tolerate these more than they are going to enjoy them. I think we as people think that the rabbits are going to enjoy seeing all these new sights and smells, but really they just find it overwhelming and not that enjoyable. For one, they're really not experiencing that much because they're in a carrier. Sometimes it's great to have other people pet them and other people talk to them, and they might even be able to see other rabbits and stuff on their trip, but I really don't think this is as exciting as we make it out to be. Now, if you do want to do a rabbit stroller or carrier and your rabbit tolerates it, you are going to want to be a little bit conscious of how long you're going out. Rabbits need 24/7 access to hay, even though they can do fine for a couple of minutes if you just want to run a quick errand and come back with them. If you are going to want to do anything longer, I highly recommend having hay source for them. Since hay is very drying, you're also going to want to put in some water, preferably a water bowl, but if that's too messy, you can try a water bottle. And because your rabbit's going to be eating and drinking, and they're also going to be stressed, it's very likely that they're going to be peeing and pooping a lot, so you're going to want to put a nice absorbent layer at the bottom. Personally, I feel like this just feels like a lot of prep work to bring your rabbit outside, but I guess if you really want to do it, you can. Another thing to consider is where you're going to take them. Taking them outside really isn't ideal. We know all the dangers of rabbits living outdoors and even going outside for playtime. So just imagine how much worse those dangers are when it's an area that you don't control. At least when it's your backyard, you know what type of products you're using, you know what type of animals are there and everything like that. But when you're taking them to a completely foreign place, there's just really no way to account for it. Most urban areas aren't ideal because, for one, there's a lot of pesticides and things sprayed. And also, there's just a lot of traffic. There tends to be a lot of dogs and people and things like that. Taking them to more rural areas like a trail or a field also isn't the best. For one, it's very likely that winds could have traveled over pesticides from neighboring areas. For one, just because plants haven't been sprayed with pesticides doesn't mean that they're safe. They still could be toxic for rabbits. And also, a lot of these rural areas tend to have a lot more predators, so it's important to be conscious of that. Also, when we're outside, we're pretty much at mercy to whatever's out there. For example, some things that are toxic to rabbits are raccoon pee on grass. Also, I think areas where dogs have peed also isn't the best either. Another thing to be wary of is cats. They're pretty much everywhere. They're pretty much an invasive species, and a lot of them have really high prey drive from living outside, so they can be very dangerous for rabbits. In addition, you also want to be very conscious of the outside temperature. Rabbits have a super thick, plush coat that they can't ever take off, So you want to make sure that it's never too hot. And also again, when it's too cold, they just can't regulate their temperatures the same way that a larger dog can, especially these smaller dwarf breeds. Honestly, if you're bringing your rabbits outdoors, the safest thing is to pretty much never put them down. So if you just want to carry them around 24/7, or if you want to have them in some type of carrier or bunny stroller, I guess that's an option, but it just doesn't feel that fun to me. Now, if you want to bring your rabbits inside, there is some benefits, like the fact that it's likely going to be temperature regulated, but some things to consider is you really don't want to have to use a car to get there. Rabbits really don't enjoy car rides. In fact, we actually use car rides as one of the ways to bond rabbits because it's so extremely stressful that a lot of rabbits form a bond just from being in that stressful situation together. So I guess if you have a nearby pet-friendly store that you could walk to, that would be a possibility. Also, just because you're in the store doesn't mean that your rabbit is safe. For one, most stores use a lot of different artificial fragrances and things like that, which are really terrible for a rabbit's sensitive respiratory system. Also, if a store is pet-friendly, it most likely has a lot of dogs, and people are honestly really terrible at managing their dogs and training their dogs, so I wouldn't be surprised if you had a couple of really dramatic and excited dogs trying to come up and sniff your rabbit. And again, rabbits are prey animals and they can pretty much have a heart attack on the spot and die if something startles them too much. I really wouldn't recommend taking a rabbit or any animal into a store that's not approved for pets. There's a lot of people who have service animals and they actually need to be able to take their animals into these public places. And a lot of people have such terrible experiences because all of us average people are trying to sneak in our animals. And it's just not a good look. If a place doesn't allow pets, you have to be respectful of that. So just don't bring a rabbit into a non-friendly place. Now, if you really do want to bring your rabbits to public places, even after watching this video, I do want to say that all rabbits are individuals, and even though I genuinely believe most rabbits wouldn't enjoy it, I do think there are a few exceptions. Now, I think 100% of rabbits can do completely fine never leaving their house, obviously aside from vet trips and things like that. I just don't think it's a necessary part of enrichment, but if your rabbit does enjoy it or tolerate it, I guess it's really not the worst thing. Just make sure you're conscious about all of these things. Another thing, if you really want to add an extra level of enrichment to your rabbit, I think setting up an outside playpen is a lot better option than bringing them to a public place like a college campus or to a nearby park. I just think when you're doing it in an area that you know, like your own backyard, there's just a lot more easier way to control the variables. Now, again, if you want an animal that can pretty much go everywhere with you, rabbits just aren't the right choice. They're very sensitive and they're pretty much prone to being stressed all the time. They don't enjoy car rides. They really don't get that much benefit from going outside with you. If you want a pet that you can bring everywhere, get something like a dog. Dogs really enjoy that. They will love to be your right-hand man. Also, exotic pets like sugar gliders, for example, do really well with being carried 24/7. I pretty much always have my sugar gliders in my bra and they go everywhere with me. Also, other small pets like rats, I've even heard ferrets really enjoy going out to stores and different outings like that. So you can always consider a pet like that. So thank you for watching. Again, these are not black and white issues, and it really depends on your rabbit as an individual. Just use these as a baseline and some important things to consider, but at the end of the day, make the decision that's best suited for you and your rabbit. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!